Dear church, let's talk about merging churches. Hello and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley. I've got two good men joining me today. Thank you so much, Lane and Logan, for being on the program.
You bet.
You bet, man.
All right, so we're talking about merging churches, which I know our audience is thinking, what in the world is that? But we're talking about a situation that's rather unique. You don't hear about this all the time, and when you do hear about it, it doesn't always work. But you guys are in, and let me say it right, Durant, Oklahoma, right? It's not Durant.
Close enough, you bet.
Durant, Oklahoma. Okay, so you guys were both at separate churches in Durant and decided, why are we separate? Let's come together. And you've done that, and you've done it successfully. That's the Reader's Digest condensed version, right? Tell us a little bit about the background of all that and how all this discussion started and ultimately came to fruition.
All right, the two congregations here in town actually was a result of a church plant probably 50 years ago.
Okay.
So Seventh and Beach congregation planted the Northwest congregation. So there wasn't ever bad blood between the two. It was, congregation planted one on the north side of town. And so the desire to get back together probably started 25 or 30 years ago, but the timing just wasn't ever right. So I've been in Durant 25 years, and I've been part of that discussion for the past 25 years.
Yeah.
In 2018, Logan was actually part of our congregation. Logan and I worked together at the Seventh and Beach Church of Christ, and we just started growing like crazy. We outgrew our facility, and we were about to build a new building. The Northwest congregation, their preacher left, so they were without a minister. So I called, I serve as one of the elders for the Seventh and Beach congregation. I called them and I had breakfast with the elders at Northwest. And I said, hey, we're going to build a new building. We would love for you guys to join us. The initial response was, well, we're not real sure we want to. But after they kind of discussed and time went by, just a month or two, we got a call from one of their elders, and he said, let's do this. So that's kind of how we got going on this.
Wow. Okay. So, Logan, were you preaching at the Northwest congregation at the time?
No, I was at Seventh and Beach. I'd been there probably a year, probably about a year, and when all that started. So
okay.
It's really been something to see. So
I guess I was wrong in my thinking. I thought you were at the one congregation, Lane was at the other, and y'all merged together, but they were without a preacher, so it seemed like good timing to do something.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So how, you said y'all were growing. How big was the Seventh and Beach congregation at that time, and how big was the Northwest congregation?
So the Seventh and Beach congregation, we were about 320, kind of probably on average.
Yeah.
We really had outgrown our current facility. The current facility that we had was over 100 years old. We had leaks in the roof. It was time for something new and different, and we didn't want to remodel. It was just going to be cost prohibitive. So we were in the early stages of trying to get that figured out when we visited with the Northwest elders.
Yeah.
And they were probably about, 100?
They were probably, 130 or so.
Okay.
At that point.
How big is the town of Durant?
25,000?
Probably
Okay.
20.
There's a school there, a college there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, university and yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Southeastern University. Yeah.
I'm trying to get a lay of the land here and give our audience a kind of a lay of the land as well. So I know that the initial discussion, that's probably exciting. You're thinking, okay, we're going to build a new building anyway. Let's bring them over. Now's a good time. They're without a preacher and all that. There had to be some opposition or maybe some, I don't know if this is going to work, some hesitancy. Did you face some of that?
Absolutely. Well, I say that not as much as you might think. A lot of people, I think, have in their mind that, half the congregation is going to totally disagree with this, but we had probably 95% all in. There was a few who didn't like the idea of a bigger congregation.
Yeah.
And so they're still attending smaller congregations in the area. But moving forward, I think, man, it was 95 or even more than that, just Probably more than that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we as elders did, we knew there were some that were hesitant. So we went and met with them individually, and we just sat down with them and we said, here's what we want to do. Here's the plan. And every single person that we sat down and visited with were 100% on board when we pulled the trigger on January 1st. So there was some conversations, obviously, that went in beforehand. But once we kind of explained the situation to them and what we were doing, cleared up all the questions they had, everybody was on board.
Yeah. So you had elders at Northwest. So logistically, what was talked about as far as merging and, are they going to be elders now and you're going to have all these elders together? Did they have other staff besides a preacher? I mean, how did logistically that work out?
So there were 3 elders at the Seventh and Beach congregation, 3 elders at the Northwest congregation.
Okay.
We had, how many deacons? A dozen. We probably had 10 or 12 deacons. Northwest had 5 or 6.
Okay.
So when the conversations began, the elderships we began to meet every week.
Okay.
And we just went through topic after topic. What are we going to do? They had a youth minister that they had hired. And so we decided a congregation of 450 is going to need elders. So we just merged the elderships.
Yeah, makes sense.
A congregation of that size is going to need deacons. We merged the deacons. We visited with their youth minister. He wanted to be part of the merge. So we just merged the ministers as well.
Okay.
And it has worked unbelievable. There have been 0 in the last 2 years, and I know that's difficult to believe, but there have been 0 disagreements. The decisions we've made as elders have been 100%.
Wow.
Every time. That's the kind of men that we get to work with. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, that's disappointing. I was hoping you could give me a lot of different challenges and things and difficulties that would make this a deeper conversation. But, it really sounds like it could not have worked out better, which I'm sure you would credit a lot of prayer,
Oh, well.
Chris, one of the things I watched for is there going to be 3 elders against 3 elders?
Yeah, exactly.
And you kind of listen and you kind of watch, and every elder is going to be different, but it was a very unique, perfect blend, and it was just a perfect match. All glory to God. There was not 3 against 3. It was almost immediate. They all knew, for the sake of Christ, they all knew this needs to happen the right way. And I think that's what's been beautiful about this is that, and I've said this before, I would have never probably, maybe never, but never probably have known those other 3 fellas or the congregation, because you're going different directions in a sense. You're working together, and we might have met each other, but the fact that we're so blended in unity right now is just awesome to be part of. So.
Yeah, I mean, so what other, and it doesn't sound like you had many, but what are some of the minor challenges that you've had? Some of the things that you've had to kind of, it sounds like that you've met them all, but what were some things that you came up that maybe you didn't foresee?
I'd say selling the buildings. And I mean, that's hard for people to give up their seat, give up their building, give up a fresh new change. Change is tough for people when they've been part of that congregation for 60, 80, 100 years. Yeah. Giving that up. Both congregations gave that up. And that's one of the things that I think has been hard for some of the members.
So one of the things we decided, we decided we needed a new identity as the church here in Durant. So we changed both names, dumped both names, and we're now the Durant Church of Christ. Yeah. That was deliberate. We didn't want one congregation to give in and be part of the other one. Gotcha. Either direction, really. So the other thing that was difficult for us was, we have some members that we loved that did not want to be part of a larger congregation. Yeah. And they are now attending and working with some smaller congregations in the area. And what has ended up happening, those smaller congregations have been blessed. Yeah. They now have some additional members who are hard workers. And so I think the kingdom has been enriched across this region because of this merge. Not everybody came, but I would say everybody is still faithful, and they are serving in different areas. And that brings us joy as elders.
Fantastic.
That we have helped the church here in southeastern Oklahoma.
Absolutely. What has that done to your membership now? When you put it together, how many folks have you got? I mean, I know everything's post-COVID.
Yeah, so before COVID, the first year we were together, 2019, our average for the year was 440.
Okay, great.
So that was a pretty good. I mean, that was 100% of both memberships plus 10 more members.
Okay, yeah.
So we had an awful lot of visitors through that area as well.
I just counted at Easter. Easter was over 500. So
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, he's right. It was a great. It's been so exciting to see everybody together. And pre-COVID, it was like, wow. And then COVID hits, but we've still been doing great.
Yeah, we're just under 400 now, even post-COVID. So new folks. Matter of fact, we had some new folks back for the first time Sunday.
Yeah.
In this whole COVID mess, and we feel like that will continue. In the coming months and weeks as this thing continues to get pushed out. Yeah. And we hope to be back up around 450 soon. We'll let the Lord take care of that, but that's what we're thinking anyway.
Has this really given you a bigger footprint in the community? As the community witnesses what you guys are doing and what you have done, has that given you more of an influence as people see two churches coming together and it working so harmoniously?
Well, in our culture right now, anybody coming together is a good thing. It's really important to the younger generation to see that and see a forgiveness and looking over our past and any division or divisiveness that's in the past. Let's get over that and I think the community has really, everywhere we went for the first year or two was like, man, everybody was asking about it and talking about how great it is. And that's been a perfect opportunity to reach out. And we have really, I hate to say used that tool, but we've really used that tool when it comes to our community work in this congregation. So,
yeah. Well, Lane, you kind of mentioned it, both of you did, that there were some that didn't want to be a part of a bigger congregation. Talk a little bit about the mindset that has to change for those folks going from a church of 100 to a church of now, you said about 440 attendance, but I can bet the membership is bigger than that. So talk a little bit about the challenge that maybe you had to work through with some folks about, hey, you're going to be infused now into a bigger congregation and what that looks like and how you do big church versus small church.
Yeah, one of the conversations that we had to have was, they would say, well, there's no way I can get to know 400 people. And we'd say, well, you're going to know the same group that you knew when we were 100.
Yeah.
But now you're going to have an entire support group of another 300. Obviously, you're not going to get to know all of them as well as you know your core, but it's not going to change the core. And I think there was some fear there that their core group was going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And what we have tried to do here, especially since we've started visiting again after COVID, is not only reestablish but confirm and strengthen these core groups of folks. And so we have several Bible classes going now, and that's kind of where these core groups are developing. We have an older ladies ministry, and that is developing that core. We have a young family ministry going, and that's strengthening that core. So in our youth program, Chris, we'll let Logan talk more about this in a minute, but it has exploded.
Yeah.
Unbelievable what is happening with our young people. And so now, as we visit with some of these that were hesitant, they say the same thing Logan said. Lane, I would have never known you had we not merged, and we are so glad that we've merged. It's a totally different mindset now than it was before.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you attribute the growing youth group to, Logan?
When you've got good leadership, Chris, they will fall in.
Yeah.
And when you've got good shepherds, and I've said before, you can find elders, but it's a little harder to find a shepherd. And these guys are shepherds, and I think the youth group sees that. And when a youth group sees that, they're willing to fall before them. And I'm with Lane. It's kind of been I'm just kind of in awe of the youth group, because they're bringing community in. They're bringing their friends in, and with the task of not just to bring them to visit, but with the task is to reach them. And we've baptized several young people because of that, and brought them to Christ because of that. And it's all glory to God. It's like this. Once you start on the right path with good leadership, I think everything just falls in place, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. How much staff do you have now?
We've got Lane is a pulpit minister. I'm a family minister. We've got a campus minister, Jared Hyatt. He is doing a fantastic work. We're pretty partial, but we think we've got one of the best campus ministers in the whole world.
That's right.
We've got really a youth deacons family, a few families, but we've got a lot of parents that help with the youth, and that has really been tremendous. That I kind of attribute that back to the youth as well. Families are just jumping in all over the place to help with the youth, opposed to we have a youth guy, he's going to do all the work.
Yeah.
And we have really been blessed, I think, with those deacons over the youth too.
Yeah. So the youth minister that was with Northwest came with the merge, and then during our first year, he moved down to Louisville and has been working down there. So
okay.
At this point, it's just been Logan and I for the last year and a half or so.
Gotcha.
And we will at some point need to put another staff member on board. I mean, we stay hopping through the week. Time we do visits and develop sermons and Bible classes and other issues that come up. We're gonna need some help before too long. So,
Lane, are you still serving as an elder when the merge came, as the preacher and an elder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of challenges is that? So you kind of getting it from both sides. Let me ask you this first, Lane, though. Since you're a preacher, you're the preacher and an elder, do you ever drive by the church building to make sure your truck is there?
I find myself driving by the church building all the time.
I got you.
But I tell you, working it is an interesting dynamic to be a preacher and an elder. And there's times when I'm preaching that I'll just stop and say, look, I need to address the congregation as an elder.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice outlet to be able to do that. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I preached a sermon on the eldership, and so I had to kind of remove myself as an elder and speak as a preacher that Sunday.
Right.
And so it's kind of an interesting line. It's worked great so far. There are times in our elders meetings when I tell the fellows I'm out of this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm too close to it. I need to step back, and the men understand that, and they also understand that if they need to fire me as a preacher, that the vote will be 5-0. I won't even. I've told them, if you need to get rid of me, just get rid of me. It's okay.
Yeah.
So we've got I think a good understanding together as to how this all is going to play out in the coming days. So.
It seems a little too good to be true. You know, you sit here and talk about this, and I thought, man, certainly you ran into some snags and some things that you really had to overcome. But wow, I mean, it sounds like it couldn't have gone any better, you know?
It couldn't have gone any better. And one of the things that I wanted to say too is that there was a few messages that we got from a few people that were, I think because of a merge, they were thinking, well, we don't care about the smaller congregations.
Yeah.
And that I don't know, you know, we didn't send that in intentionally, of course, but I think some people think, well, there's so much good going on. What about us?
Yeah.
And that just states the need for us to continue to support and help the congregations in the area too, and to gather up together with them as much as possible. So
absolutely. Well, and Durant's kind of a hub for that area, am I right? And so you have a real power of influence there, and it can also meet some needs there with some of the smaller congregations. So I appreciate you guys taking that on. And that's one of those things that, I guess, responsibilities that comes along with being a bigger church. Yeah.
You know, one of the things, Chris, about the merge and how smooth this has all gone, we don't hardly believe it either. Membership doesn't. I mean, we were told you can't do this. You'll be together for a year and it's going to fall apart.
We still hear that.
Yeah, we still hear that. And what we have noticed is the providence of God is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're on 10 acres here that was bought by one of our members 35 years ago. It is the perfect location.
We're right on the connection of two major highways. I mean, it's like,
wow.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean,
we had maybe, 7, 8, 9 pieces of property between the two congregations. Sold them all within a year for the appraisal value.
During COVID.
Something that should not have happened. This new facility that we are in, one of our members is a contractor. He said, I will get it built. It is finished. And again, we did all this during all this COVID mess. We should not be sitting in a new facility right now.
Yeah.
We should not be planning an auditorium out this north door, but here we are. And again, all glory to God, as Logan has said many times.
Yeah. That I kept saying through the merge, I remember telling Lane over and over and over, the devil's going to step in somehow. He's going to, and we kept saying that and he has in little ways, and we try to stay ahead with that on teaching and Bible and things like that. But I don't know. It's just, I hate to tell you, it's been so positive, Chris, but it has been.
I'm really glad to hear it. I just assumed that there would be some struggles along the way because, that isn't normal. You guys know that. What you guys have done is not normal. And I know of churches that have tried to merge and it didn't work out. I know of churches that did merge and it took several years to get in a good place. And they're so glad that they did it. But at the time, there was a lot of headache. But you guys just, sounds like there was a lot of forethought though as well. And that's key.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and merging where both congregations leave their old building and build a new one, I think is ideal. I think it would be tough for congregations to merge and go to the other building. First, Chris, people are tied to a building.
They are.
And they have connections there. And I think that's probably ideal that we were able to sell both properties.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But there had to be some moments as elders, as staff, where you said, I don't know if this doesn't work. Surely, right?
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm going to have a job after this.
Both thought that from time
well,
to time.
You guys know how hard it is to sell a church building. It's hard to sell anything during COVID, but I don't know if y'all's real estate situation's the same as here. I think it's kind of tapering off now, but for a while, it was a great time to sell a house, a terrible time to buy a house, But it's really hard to sell a piece of property that was a church, right? I say really hard, maybe not for everybody, but it seems to be a little more difficult than other pieces of property. But there had to be some consternation and some thinking of, what if this doesn't work?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was, I think initially we had some of those fears, but God was so active, again, through his providence as things began. The old Northwest church building was the first property to go. We had an offer on it within the first couple of weeks.
Wow.
And so we were able to negotiate that. And then a couple other pieces of property. They had 2 parsonages, both of which sold, I think, in the first month or so. Now, the old 7th and Beach building took a little while. We probably had it for 6, 8 months, perhaps. But another group came down from Oklahoma City and made us an reasonable offer on that old building. And we were able to sell it as well. And so that there has not been this cloud hanging over us of fear and doubt, because we don't see, when we're together, we don't see anybody with the idea of, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
It's everybody's attitude is, man, let's go. How are we going to grow this machine? Let's go.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's the key.
It's hard if you don't have the fruit of the Spirit, honestly.
Yeah.
I've said that to you before, Chris, I think the fruit of the Spirit, when I was leaving elders meetings, I would walk out of there and I would go home and I would tell my wife, honey, you will not believe this. These guys are amazing. And I would just say, Lord, how are we so blessed to have these now 6 men? And it's just been a blessing. And I wish that, we talk about selling buildings. I wish some members in the church worldwide would kind of sell their own personal space in a sense and buy into the fact that, we need to merge together inside of our church buildings sometimes. There's people who sit on both sides or whatever that need to merge.
Yeah.
And what a great example of elders who can do it, but sometimes we can't.
Exactly. Well, tell me a little bit about your building. So you're in it, obviously. Tell me a little bit about it. I know you have plans for addition, things like that. So tell us a little bit about the building, how it turned out.
We decided to do this in basically two stages. So the first stage is really our gym.
Okay.
So what we're currently in, it's a 20,000 square foot facility. Right in the middle is a large meeting area. We can probably sit 650 in this current room.
Okay.
Classrooms all around the edge, a nice full industrial kitchen, a nice, we call the fireside room. Of course, super nice bathroom facilities, on both ends to take care of everybody. So this was our first phase. We wanted to have this done
just to get in something.
So we could, exactly. So
Right.
we could get in something. And the auditorium, the architect currently has the drawings for the auditorium part. We stole the plans from a congregation up in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
They actually shared them with us. We didn't actually steal them, but we are mimicking a lot of our stuff after that church building in Wichita. So anyway, the architect has the plans for phase 2.
Okay.
We hope to break ground on it.
January.
Yeah, January, February this year.
Okay.
We're hoping in 2 weeks, the architect will reveal some of their plans about phase 2. We've already secured a loan from the bank for phase 2. And so we're hoping to just kind of roll all this together. And we're hoping within 10, 12, 15 years, we're hoping this whole facility will be paid for.
Yeah.
We'll leave the next generation. They can worry about everything else. They can take off on mission work. They can take off, and we're still doing. We haven't given anything up.
Right.
None of our mission work we've given up. None of our community outreach. And that was one of the things we decided as elders. We are only doing this if we keep everything else the same. We're not dropping anything. And the congregation has responded, and so far, so good.
So you still have complete buy-in. Nobody's saying, hey, we're already good here. We don't need to build a facility and all that. Everybody's bought in.
Everybody buy in.
Good.
Absolutely. So,
Great. I know I sound like I'm trying to default to the negative. I'm not. I think it's awesome, and that's why I wanted to have you guys on, because I knew that things were going well. And, of course, hearing you guys speak, it's going better than well. But I was trying to get to the heart of, the decision making and all that, and the struggles and the things that you had, the hurdles that you had to overcome. And it's so refreshing to hear you guys talk about this and to know that we've got we know this anyway, but there's so many good people in the brotherhood that just want to be together, and they want to do life together. And it sounds like that's what you're working with there.
And a lot of the small things that we might be talking about disappeared.
that's right.
For example, when we met in the first time, which, Chris, it was unbelievable. When you've got everybody walking in the doors the first time you're together, it was just, there was a lot of tears. And I mean, it was 58 years apart.
Yeah.
And so we're meeting in this gym, basically. We didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
With basketball goals. And it was like a lot of the things that people might, we'd be arguing about is like, that just went away.
That's awesome.
Because what the core, we have a vision here, and the Lord is blessing us, and we're together, and a lot of those smaller discussions or disputes, I think we're done away with.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Before I let you guys off of here, I should have done this in the beginning. I love on this podcast highlighting the good, the good things that churches are doing, which we've been doing here, but also the good people involved. So, hey, tell our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about yourself. Lane, start with you. Just your family, kind of how long you've been there, and just kind of tell us about yourself so others can know about you.
Okay. Well, we've been in Durant for 25 years. I've got one wife and two boys. One boy is in Ardmore, married, 2 daughters. The other boy's in Bentonville, married. He's got a daughter and a son. I moved here as the campus minister back 25 years ago. Did that for 13, 14 years. Then I was the family minister for a few years, and transferred from that in. The elders asked me to start serving as the full-time pulpit minister. When I started as pulpit minister, that's when we brought Logan on.
Okay.
So we've been together now
5 years.
5 years, starting into our 6th year now together, and that has just been a joy.
He's easy to work with.
I can tell that. Yeah. You guys seem to get along like a good old married couple.
Yeah, pretty much. What's funny is, and this is what I'll tell everybody too. Some people ask about, having 2 ministers working together. And now I kind of wonder why so many years they only had one, the single only one, because it's such a blessing. He'll preach one Sunday, I'll preach the next Sunday or whatever. And we talk and we work together and we plan. And it's working out great right now.
That's fantastic. Well, Logan, tell a little bit about yourself.
Like I said, I've been here 5 years. I have a wife and 5 kids. So I have an oldest that's 21 and a youngest that's 9 months. So quite a span there. But we're loving Durant, absolutely loving it. So
yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. And I want to tell our listeners and viewers that if you have a question specifically for Lane or Logan, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com. We'll be glad to send that comment or question on to them, and I'm sure that they would love to answer or hear from you. And if you have a question for me, same email. We just thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you for what you do, Chris. You're really making some things happen, and we appreciate your work.
Absolutely. Right. Well, thank you. That means a lot. And you guys really, you're showcasing so much good that's happening in the church, and that's what we want to do on here. So thank you for that.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
You too. And thank you guys for tuning in. Please spread the word about the podcast. We're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook. You can find us on those platforms. Let other people know. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris.